Okay, we're going to go through Unit 1, Day 8, just making sure I'm recording here. Looks good. Unit 1, Day 8, I'm actually going to skip the warm-up today, but I will have you guys try it. I'm just going to go through it when we get back, but I want it done, so I'm going to have the substitute pause the video for about 5 minutes, actually. 5 minutes should be good to do all of that. If you got to look back in your notes to figure out how to name things and stuff, feel free to, but 5 minutes starting now. Okay, so now that you're back, I am going to start the lesson today. So again, this is a line. We'll start by talking about some vocab. This is a line. If I were to name that line, I could pick any 2 points, and then I would just draw a line on top of those 2 points. So, for example, well, I'm not even going to do examples because we're going to talk about segments instead. For the segments in this, I could name, well, a few of them. I'll go through some of them, but remember, a segment is just a portion of a line. It has a starting point and an ending point. So, for example, I could call DE a segment. And I could have put those in any order I wanted to. I could have gone ED instead. And then I drew a segment on top because that's what it is. I could have also named it EG if I wanted to. And then I see one more in there. It's a little bit tougher to find. Maybe I'll give you a second to think about if you can find it. But that last one that I'm seeing is DG. So you could name it any of those, or 3 more if you just reversed those letters would also count. So now that we're done with that, we've established that these are just portions. Now those portions have lengths to them. Like if I had a measuring tape, I could take it out and I could measure them. If I had a ruler, I could measure them. We're going to get more into lengths with those as we start today. Now, before I get started with that, I do have to talk just for a second. Not only are you learning a brand new language as we go through geometry stuff, but you're actually learning 2 new languages. One of them is going to be more of like a label. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Let's try that again. Label. Or like naming things. And one of them is more like numeric or number-based. So when I label things like I did up top right here, that would be more in that label language. I would just call that DE, for example, with that on top. If I'm talking about the actual length of it, I would really just need, the letters like this. So I'm not going to get into it too far over like virtually to you guys. I'm just going to tell you this, and then I'll talk more about it when I get back. But if you're looking here like this, and you're seeing XY equals 9, and you're wondering to yourself, why is there no segment on top of those letters, Mr. Anderson? You said you needed segments on top. It's just because we're in this numeric language right there. It's super important, but like I said, I'm not going to talk about it too much until we get back. So just kind of know that it's there for now. Okay. Going back up top, this is a super important property that we are going to be using for the rest of the year. We've got a bunch of properties coming up, probably close to like 25 or 30 properties. This is one of them, maybe one of the most important. A segment addition property is pretty easy to understand. We are just taking segments, which are like these, and we're adding them together to make bigger segments. Sometimes I call this little segment plus other little segment equals big segment. And so kind of what this diagram over here is showing from P to M, they're calling it PM. If you found the length of that and you added it to M to Q, that length right there, MQ, you would get a total of this. So let's just say, for example, like this was 8 and this was 2. How long would PQ be? Well, it'd be 10. You just add them up. So it's pretty straightforward. We're going to write that out over here, though, for a second. It says if point M is between P and Q, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like what we got going over here. We would say from P to M plus from M to Q would equal from P to Q. That's the segment addition property. I like to call it little segment plus little segment equals big segment. It's just a quick way to remember that. Okay, let's go on to some of these Alex-looking problems down here. It says xy is 9, and it's saying xz from here to here is 21. Could you tell me what this is? I'll give you a second to come up with it. So I would say that it would be, oops, I drew the wrong thing. There we go, 12, because 9 plus 12 is 21. So I just did some subtraction there to figure that out. Moving on, if PQ is 7 and QR is 14, could you find PR? Well, PR is from the beginning all the way to the end. I'll give you a second. Hopefully you've got 21 there. Number 3, try it on your own. I'll give you 30 seconds or so, maybe less. All right, that's way less than 30 seconds. I think we're good though. From X to Y, it's 15. We're trying to find from Y to Z, but it says the entire thing from X to Z is 22. So that must mean YZ is 8. I'm sorry, 7. Just trying to trick you there. There we go, 7. Okay, moving on. The last little bit here. So congruent, we're going to use the word congruent quite a bit. Congruent means the same thing as equal, essentially. But the difference is when we say equal, we're talking about that numeric thing. If I'm saying congruent, we're in that language. Oh, let me rewrite that so you guys can see it better. Congruent means the same thing, but they're just in those different languages. We talked about 2 languages before. Again, we'll get more into this when I get back. Congruent segments have the same length. When do we say congruent versus equal? Well, when you see numbers like we see here, we can say that those are equal because they have the same number. If we don't have that, which maybe we won't, it's going to show that they're the same length by putting these little, we call them tick marks, on our lines, just like that. It's showing that those things are the same. Now, if we had 2 other lines that maybe weren't the same as the other ones, but they were congruent with each other, we could put 2 tick marks on them and show that these 2 are congruent and these 2 are congruent, but they're not congruent, like all 4 aren't congruent with each other. So you can go 2 tick marks or 3 tick marks and so on and so forth. I guess they're calling them slashes. Sure, we could call them that too, but the symbol for congruent almost looks like an equal sign even, except it's got what we call a little tilde on top. You don't need to remember that, but it's got a little swirly line on top. That's our congruent symbol that we're going to be using all the time too. So for example, we could say AB, I believe is what that's called. That's a segment. We're in segment language right now. Remember, when we're in that language where we put the segment on top, we use the word congruent. Or this, or that one uses an equal sign. So we would say segment AB is congruent to segment CD, just like that. And that's exactly what I said right there. Okay, the midpoint of 2 segments. So the midpoint of 2 segments would just be like the exact middle of the 2 segments. So if I had AC as a segment right here, the midpoint would be B. And what does that mean if it's directly in the middle? Well, that means that AB is congruent to BC. Those are the same length. We're not going to say they're equal to each other because we don't know the numbers. It doesn't say the numbers next to them. We just know that they're the same length. So we would say congruent. So we could say AB. Oops. We could say AB. Uh-oh. I think I lost it there. I would write it just like I see up in the example, though. I lost the ability to write. I don't know if my free trial ran out or what, but that would be up there. So I'll just have to quickly talk through this because I don't know what's going on with my iPad right now. But number 1, It's going to have you label some things. I think this is an Alex topic that most of you can figure out. If you do need more help with it, you can always watch the video on there. But I'm not actually going to talk about this because I think if you just write things down that it says up top, I think you're going to be able to figure things out. There is a little extra hint on number 1 where it's talking about a midpoint. So that means 2 things would be congruent or equal to each other. But yeah, I think you guys are good to go from there. Good luck with that. Okay.